Everybody, to another episode of Mid Tier Thoughts. This is your host, Austin and Mike, and we are back. This one might be a little bit shorter. It's been a busy week for both of us, but still trying to keep some content putting out for those listening to this one too. Whenever it does air, you'll probably see a little bit of a slowdown during the holiday season, and then ramp back up once life kind of gets back normal for both of us. With that being said, what's up, Mike?
Not much, man. The holidays, shit like that. Always fucking busy doing stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you got a baby coming soon, so you're super busy. On top of that, just wait till the baby actually gets here.
I'm not too worried about it. Everyone always does put you in this panic fear, but from what the most part, I've talked to a lot of parents and stuff because my girl is super manic like that. She's just oddly always over analyzing everything. Um, but I've talked to a lot of
That sounds
parents. What was that?
said that sounds like a woman.
Yeah, no shit. But from the most of the time when I talk to the parents, it's not that bad. Your life really doesn't change all that much.
Right.
Well, if you're living a normal life,
Like,
if you're
well,
if you're going out every single weekend and getting fucked up and all that shit, obviously
yeah,
your life
yeah.
changes dramatically.
I mean, definitely, you obviously don't go out like doing crazy stuff as much, because one, that requires a babysitter. But I mean, it doesn't really get that. You don't really see too much change. I like obviously in the beginning, there's a lot of change in the sense that, um, you're going to get a little bit of lack of sleep, and you've got someone else to take care of, and things are going to change that way. So there is a bit of a change, but not like, oh my God, my life is over.
Dude,
You
jokes
know,
on you. The military already prepared me for lack of sleep. Nothing's gonna
yeah,
change.
exactly. Hey, maybe that's what it is. Hey, speaking of that, for everyone listening, as far as major life events go, if you follow me on Instagram, you already saw on December 10th was my last day in the United States Navy and Navy Reserve. So, for those who haven't picked up yet, or maybe this is your first episode listening, I've spent the last 10 and a half years, four of which were on active duty. The rest were in the reserves with the Navy. Mike is also a Navy veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and he did his four and out. I stayed a little longer because I'm retarded, and yeah, I finally got out. I've had some people ask me why. You're halfway through. Why not stay the whole way? And I kind of explained it a little bit in my Instagram post. Um, I've been a lot of different places as far as like being in different units. I traveled more and traveled more and got deployed with the reserves more than I ever did, on active duty.
Uh,
And go ahead.
Oddly enough.
Yeah, weirdly enough, right?
Mm.
That being said, I got a chance to see a lot of different leadership styles and see the ways the Navy has changed in a long time. I originally left for boot camp June 3rd, 2013. At the time of this recording, it is, I don't know, mid December 2023. So do some math on that one. Yeah. Uh, anyway, that being said, I've seen the Navy change, military as a whole change in a lot of different ways. Not too many of them for the better. I think as a whole, the military as a whole, the Navy especially, for me, kind of forgot its place. Kind of forgot that it's a war fighting branch. I mean, it's a war fighting part of the government. It is the idea that it is a Department of Defense. It is should still be able to do its job. I think part of that had to do with the GWAT. We didn't get a whole lot of love because kind of hard to fight another Navy when they don't have one. But the special operations community obviously got a lot out of that. And then as we gear towards looking towards potential threats like China or Russia or other major world powers that do actually have the capability to meet us at sea with something, I think we do see a little bit of a change. And with that, I think the Navy is going to have to learn the hard way how to get back into being a fighting force. It has become a corporation in a uniform that has embraced just as much, if not more, diversity crap than anywhere else. The whole country got behind banning Bud Light over a tranny, going out there and supporting it. Meanwhile, the U.S. military, the Navy specifically, is embracing, drag queen Navy ambassadors, and this is the kind of shit where I'm like, you wonder why we have a recruiting crisis, dude. Like, if you're an 18-year-old dude looking for some shit to inspire you, that's not going to do it.
Yeah, no. I mean, depends
Like,
on what kind. Like, depends on what kind of boy, obviously,
I guess, yeah, but I mean, like, what I'm
or
saying is,
girl.
like, I grew up and I always remember the recruiting posters, like the World War II Navy recruiting posters, and I always thought that stuff was super cool. I like that's what kind of got me into thinking about the military and the Navy specifically, because like it was inspiring stuff, and being like, man, dude, I want to serve I want to do my part. Um, I feel like for me and for the people that you want to join the military, a drag queen ain't doing it. Like, I don't think anyone's going to be sitting there like, on the bridge of a destroyer as it heads its way towards the South China Sea, being like, thank God we're doing this for the drag queens back home.
I actually,
So
so interesting enough, in my cover, I always kept anime titties.
remember remember what you're fighting for.
Exactly.
China invades Japan. You're like, we must defend the Holy Land.
that is my homeland.
Weebs unite! The mighty Weeb Crusade.
You're only a weeb if you're white. You can't be Asian.
I mean, come on. There's got to be like, if you're like Filipino versus like Korean, there's got to be a level.
I think Asians are all bundled in one. Honestly,
Yeah,
like like every single job title, everything like that. You know how a lot of them will be uh, oh, Asian or black or white and things like that. But then how do certain Asian people are Asian but they're not Asian? Like Filipinos. Like Filipinos always get me off guard because they're Asian, but are they? They're more
it's like,
anything.
have you ever heard Joe Coy's joke about that?
Yeah,
He's
I
like,
did. Dude.
Fil-
He's hysterical.
Filipinos are the only like have so much in common with the Latinos because they're the only Asians with last names like Martinez.
And Lopez, yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, but like they're Asians, but they're Asians that were conquered by the Spaniards. So like they're more Spanish.
yeah. It is kind of interesting how things change, like change with like that. How you have those different influences, and also like how long they stay for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Dude,
wild.
at this rate, the Philippines are going to be around longer than the U.S.
Dude, speaking of the Navy, the Filipino mafia is a thing.
It is a thing.
Like, and for those, I'm probably taking my life in my hands by divulging these secrets, but so I'm not suicidal. But for those listening, like we all know about like the E4 mafia, or like kind of the idea that like E4s go behind the scenes and get stuff done,
That's,
right?
don't get me wrong, the
It,
E4 Mafia is real in some aspects, but it's not like people think.
but the Filipino mafia is 100% true. Like with a few exceptions, every Filipino I knew in the military or knew in the Navy was either a corpsman, which is the Navy equivalent of a medic, a logistics guy, or the paperwork people that get you paid. So they controlled the money, your health, and your gear.
Yeah, well,
And they
I
always,
mean, from my experience, especially down in San Diego and stuff, that's why I keep my mouth shut about a lot of the tranny stuff and a lot of the gay stuff. Is because gay PSs and gay YNs are the only reason why paperwork gets done.
I will give them that. I will say that. Like the best PS I ever had. PS is a personnel specialist. That's a guy that will do the paperwork.
Your money,
Who was
money.
like
Yeah.
100% took care of us, got us paid. Super awesome dude, super gay Chamorro dude from Guam, but awesome guy,
Yeah.
awesome guy. Got shit done and didn't put up with nobody. He was a sassy dude,
Very.
and
Only YNs and PSs and stuff can get away with being so zesty, dude.
dude, the best part is because they can get away with being sassy because if you screw them over, they won't pay you.
Yeah, or you'll be like, "Hey, my pay's fucked up, or this is fucked up. I need my package sent up," and they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm on it. Don't worry about it. I'll get to it."
Yeah, exactly. As they throw it away, like, oh, that's crazy. I don't know how that happened. That's wild. What a shame. Come back later. See you in 6 months.
Dude, and then like I feel like all the females in admin literally just like are there to like gossip with the gay dudes that are actually working.
It's got to be a ratio thing.
It's got.
Someone someone has to keep that shop running.
There's always like 4 females in the office. One of them's pregnant, and the other ones are just kind of chunky. And then the gay dude in the back that like literally does everything.
The sad part is, for all of our audience that's not been in the Navy, you don't understand how hard I'm laughing because this is so true.
Is,
I just had a mental flashback of every admin office I've ever been in the Navy, and that is like shot for shot the fact of exactly what they look like. There's one half Asian gay dude getting everything done.
Everything.
There's one pregnant woman and 3 chicks that you're like, I don't even know what you do here.
Yeah, do you even work here?
Yeah, who are you? I've never seen you ever.
But then they'll show up and get like an award from the CO.
Oh yeah, and it's always for some bullshit like, best potato salad at the potluck, and you're like, or oh, they approved all the awards for everybody. Not the person that got the award, just the person that approved the awards gets the award for awarding awards.
And what's super crazy too is like I've been to like full blown like award ceremonies and stuff like that where first of all you don't even know this chick works here, and then second of all she's getting like an award for like maritime readiness, and the whole fucking drill was your department, and you're like, who is this?
Who are you? Why are you gay?
Why are you here? I've literally seen you and you're collecting an award that we got.
Yeah, but anyway, moving past from that, going back to earlier, yeah, anyway, like I said, I've seen the Navy change in a lot of ways. I've seen it kind of forget that that it needed to be a fighting force. I've seen it slowly start to relearn that as we shift away from the GWAT into, preparing for a major war within a world power. And the problem is, in my opinion, we've taken a bunch of peacetime leaders who were Navy peacetime leaders, because the Navy really wasn't at war that much during the time I was in, during the last 10 years. Certain parts of it were, but the Navy as a whole was not. And they've been more corporate based, more corporation style leaders. And now they're trying to figure out how to lead a wartime military. And one, a lot of the good people got out with COVID. 2, a bunch of the people like me are going, screw this, I'm out, I'm not reenlisting. And then on top of all of that, we've got some of the worst leaders I've ever seen in my life in places of power, and people who are making decisions where, and they're always the same ones that will say things like, well, if you don't like the way it is, then stay in long enough until you make rank and then you can change it. And it's like, that's why I'm coming to you. Yeah. You have that rank. You can change it. That's literally your job. And you will do nothing about it because you don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah.
So that being said, I felt like I could do more for my country, getting out and being a civilian than I could being in the military anymore. So
yeah. I came to that realization just a little bit faster than you.
Yeah, I think it took me a little longer. I kind of held out hope, hoping things would get better.
They really
and go ahead. Go ahead.
They really bribed me too, because the orders they gave me was grease, and I still turned them down. And they're like, "What are you doing?"
Speaking of that, I remember I had a chief sit me down. He's like, "Dude, they're offering a $20,000 reenlistment bonus right now. $20,000. Could you use $20,000?" I was like, "Oh, dude, you're so right. I can't wait to go to war with China and lose both my legs for the price of a used Kia."
Plus, did you saw that new VA benefits like change?
No.
So Congress is trying to pass this thing right now where it's, if you're a veteran and you get disability, which a lot of veterans do when they get out due to PTSD or getting your legs blown off, things like that, and you make over a certain amount a year, they cut your...
Oh, yeah. It was like, if you make over, like, I think it was $125,000 a year as an individual, that like for every dollar over, it's like for every dollar over a certain amount, you lose a certain amount of benefits. So that in theory, if you make enough money, you just won't get any benefits total at all.
Yes, but they changed the amount of money it was. It was a little bit lower than 120.
That's insane, dude, to me. Like, I'm not one for government handouts and shit, but like, dude, when people got like no fucking legs,
Mhm.
and then yeah, like I mean, like there's a dude that used to come into the gun shop all the time, and he worked there for a while. Phenomenal dude. He's got one leg. He lost it in the war. He was one of the few. He was one of the first people to survive the type of injury that he has. They named a prosthetic after him. The dude's an awesome guy, and now he does. He has a kick-ass job, right? So that dude who lost his leg in service of his country, right, is entitled, in my opinion, to 100% VA disability, regardless of his ability to work or not, because he lost a friggin' leg for this country, right?
Mhm.
Yet, by that ruling, if he is able to still become successful, then the country no longer owes him a debt.
Yeah, because he made a certain amount of capitalism is an amazing thing. I hate a lot of people hate on it. It is a good thing if it's done right. Obviously, right now with the like what we live in right now, they fucking took advantage of it. Capitalism is not like everyone that's like, oh, capitalism sucks. Look at America. Da, da, da. I'm like, this is not capitalism. They own the cards. They're playing. You guys are playing the game, but they already won. They are the game. You know.
Yeah.
But 100%. I told my girl about this, and she's like, "Well, yeah, there are certain people that get 100% disability, which I know a ton that should not be getting 100%."
Absolutely. There are people who know how to play the game.
Exactly, and if you play the game right, I'm not mad at you. You played the game right. But I brought up the Vietnam. I was like, so you're telling me you look over and this guy who lost both his legs in Vietnam, fucking Lieutenant Dan, and he served his country. He did his thing, and then he came up with his own business producing coffee, and he makes a good amount of money now because he came up with this business. You're telling me he's not entitled to anything anymore?
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's something I don't understand. So, hey, speaking of things I don't understand, I got something I want to run by you, kind of get your opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I've been seeing a little bit, when I saw it on Instagram rolling around, was so you know how we are always talking about like finding your tribe, right? And like vetting people and getting into finding groups, right? As far as like training goes.
Mm-hmm.
Saw an interesting take on this. I'm kind of curious your opinion. So this guy's take was to be not just to be extremely careful of like, hey, know the group you're joining, or if you are the group, know who you're vetting. But it almost came across as like you shouldn't be doing groups was this guy's take because it almost came across as like it's all a it's all a plan by the Fed, by the glowies, to like get you into a group to like, be able to screw you over, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think I see where he's coming from in the sense that he's like, oh, don't fall for the Fed trap, or like, oh, they're baiting you, blah, 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 things like that. I understand where he's coming from with that mentality that, like, the idea that, like, you hear about those stories where, you know, it's like 6 or 7 dudes in a group, and then they all get busted, and it turns out they're all feds, except for like one guy.
Yeah.
And the one guy's like brand new and doesn't know anything, but everybody else there is feds convincing everybody else to commit felonies. And so it's like I get where he's coming from in that sense of like, oh, don't join a group because they're all plots by the government. But that's almost what it came across as, was like you shouldn't join a group because they're all plots to overthrow the government. I mean, they're all plots by the government to like screw you over somehow. And to me, I don't know. My thing is like I feel like that's not a good take on that issue.
Before you get too far, I want to look at it from a different perspective of what he's saying.
Go ahead.
I think he's also what he could be saying, and is that joining a group in general is a bad plan, because becoming a group, even if you guys are all not feds, right? You guys are all just law-abiding citizens. Becoming a group, the government now has a reason to investigate you or to come at you or to attack the group.
Got it. See, and I think that, now you say that, I think that does make a little bit more sense. And that's why, like, for example, I've kind of been against like organized groups in the sense that like I know some groups that have chapters, like certain groups that will be like, oh, we're an organization. so to speak. Like, oh, we have, like I know some guys who train and they are a part of a group that has people who train in every state. And so they kind of added some structure to it. Like, hey, if you're in this part of the state, these are the guys you hook up to go train with. If you're in this part of the state, and they do this all around the country. My concern with something like that has always been, in that regard, that I don't necessarily like that level of organization. Like, I understand where they're coming from,
Mhm.
in that, like, oh, maybe we could start a movement or something like that. But to me, it almost comes across too as very easy to frame as an issue by the government. You get what I'm saying?
I totally get what you're saying. It's disgusting to even have to say that because our government is supposed to be here for us. But unfortunately, I get what you're saying.
You there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out there for a minute.
I said, yeah. Unfortunately, the fact that we have to even like say it looks bad to the government is disgusting because the government should have no say on what I do in my own fucking time. But
Oh, I agree.
I do understand what you're saying.
Like, I think for me, I guess now it's funny. I just talked shit on this guy's opinion, and now I'm sitting here being like, actually, I get it now.
Well, you got to look at
That's
it
how
from
you
every perspective.
right. And I guess like I think my thing where I would agree with him is in the sense that like groups that are organized with official names, like you'll see stuff on Instagram, and I'm just making one up off the top of my head because I don't want to like throw shade at anybody, and I also don't want to like get something wrong on someone's name, but like we'll just say like the first Appalachian Mountain Men or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make it sound almost like a military unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand why they do that because like one, it sounds cool, right? Like that's half the battle. It gives you a sense of legitimacy and kind of makes you seem a little bit more than just some dudes popping cans off in the backwoods, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it's one of those things where it's like the minute you put an official label on it and you start doing ranks and you have COs and XOs and everything like that, that just leads it to, I think you're building a case of having certain amounts of organization against you, that where they can be like, oh, they're organizing. Oh, there's this, there's that. They're an official unit or a gang or whatever you want to call it. Whereas if you, don't necessarily put a label on it, or even if you just put a very vague label on it, something like I've seen people do like wherever local area they're at, and then training group or defense group, that almost sounds more like a company or even a club,
Mm-hmm.
than it does something of like if you say we're the first mountain rangers or something, right? That sounds more like a militaristic unit or like a paramilitary thing. But if you say something like we're the Wichita, Kansas defense group, that just sounds like a tactical company to me. That doesn't ring as that sounds like a company trying to sell me tactical gear. That doesn't
It does,
sound like
yeah, 100% does.
yeah. It sounds like a guy trying to sell like t-shirt, like drop ship t-shirts, not necessarily, it doesn't bring up the same connotations to me as if you were to be like, we're the West Valley militia,
Yeah.
like stuff like that. It doesn't have all the negative connotation, I think, to it. And I think that perception is a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess I get where he's coming from in a certain aspect of it, but I think like if that's the point he was trying to make, I don't think it necessarily came across that way because I think it came across almost as like don't train with people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
which I think
The
is,
first
like yeah,
the first one you were saying that you took it as.
yeah, I think that's more like how it came across was like to me it came across as more of like, hey, don't train with people. And maybe I just read it poorly, but that was something I kind of thought about was like, I think here the idea is that there's nothing wrong with going out and training, and I think it's a better thing to do is to go out and train with people and learn your weaknesses.
Yeah.
But to do it smartly, that's the biggest thing is do it smartly. We've seen time and time again things where this has failed, things where these have gone south, and the problem is, and in my opinion, is that if things ever do come to violence, at any given point, God forbid, that the left as a whole and I say left as in like the Antifa types, are way better at organizing than we generally tend to be.
100% they
When
are.
you see these giant crowds of people come in from all over the country to major cities and cause riots and chaos, and no one gets arrested, and they're able to coordinate and do these types of things. Meanwhile, I'm trying to find three dudes to go to the range. Like I'm trying to get three dudes to go to the range and have some brewskis afterwards, and I can't get that done. But Portland can have 10,000 masked people show up and attack the same building simultaneously, and then provide screens from each other and like do mob style tactics to protect each other. And I can't get three dudes to ride deep with me whenever I need some help. Like I can't find someone to help me move. So I think that's definitely a part of it, is we got to get people to help organize.
Yeah, I do believe so. There are some of it, like a lot of those groups I don't even want a part of, just because they're kind of cringy.
Yeah,
Some of them,
there are some that
all
there are some that
civilians
do
and
it
stuff,
right.
or like a couple of dudes that were in the military and then have a bunch of
Yeah,
civilians that like follow them into this, that just don't know any better, and they're like, oh, military, they know everything about everything,
yeah, yeah.
um,
I think that's a good point.
mm-hmm.
I've seen that a lot too, where they're like, "Oh, I was in the army or I was a Marine," and they're like, "Oh, let me suck your dick then because you know everything about the military."
Yep, you know everything, and you can teach me everything. Like, even though you were a PS in the military, you can teach me everything about guns.
Or even like if you were an infantry dude, it's like some people just, or like people take like, "Oh, he was a ranger, so he's God now."
Yeah, it's funny because I've met about 10,000 Rangers.
Right?
Why is everyone's brother a Ranger?
Right. Why does everyone who's ever joined the army ever an army ranger? Hey,
Yeah, what's up?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, what's up?
Go ahead. I was gonna say, speaking of like groups and things like that, have you seen the commercials for that movie Civil War?
I haven't seen any commercials, but I've seen like little ads on my phone and stuff.
So I've been looking at the commercials of it, and I'm hesitant. I want to like it. I want to, because I'm just curious to see what the take is, and I'll probably watch it for that. But like the premise that's been delivered so far in the commercial is that Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec is now president. He's been president for 3 terms. 19 states have seceded in the West. California, here's the intriguing part for me. California and Texas are on the same side.
Never gonna happen. That didn't happen.
That's half the reason I want to watch the movie, is just to learn how that happens. And I guarantee you, no matter what it is, I'm going to be disappointed. Or like I don't, one, they either won't mention it at all, or two, it'll be just some bullshit about like, oh, and both governors decided to team up, and be like, why? Like, no, just very blasé. But the whole premise is basically an East versus West civil war, and full on civil war, like airstrikes on Americans, that kind of thing. There's screenshots of it of some boogie boys wearing Hawaiian shirts doing room clearing and stuff. That looks pretty dope. So I'm kind of curious to see how it goes. There is one thing that keeps popping up, and it's like a dude in a ghillie suit with like bright green hair and painted nails behind like an M110. And I'm like, what is going on here?
You say what's going on, but you know what's so funny? I remember even back in the 90s and like the 2000s and stuff, like Mercenaries 2 or anything like that. You were cool as shit if you had like a mohawk and like painted nails and you were just like dropping bodies. You were cool as fuck. Like beads in your beard and shit. Like that was like the coolest thing back in the day.
I just hope that like I get some kind of epic scene of like Humvees rolling down the street just blaring Creed. Can you take me higher?
That's reality. Or like just blaring Tupac. I saw actually what's funny about like what intrigued my interest about the whole show and everything was me watching breakdown videos on Facebook and stuff of people going like, Let's break down what the sniper is using. Let's break down what this guy's using, like just as like an infantry soldier and stuff. And like all of the gear was pretty fucking spot on, dude.
Oh, in the movie?
Yeah, in the
And
show
then the
or whatever.
commercials, yeah, yeah, in the commercials, yeah, yeah. So it's supposed to come out in April, and I think they did that on purpose because of the election coming up. But
Oh,
I I'm kind of stoked to see it because I always like to see kind of dystopian movies like that and kind of see what their vision is. And I kind of want to see, like, what's the world behind it? Like, what's the backstory? How did we get to this point? That's the kind of stuff that always kind of intrigues me,
mhm.
like the world that it's set in. But it was interesting, that one thing I think that they did a good job of in the commercial that I think is realistic that a lot of us forget about is that there's a scene in the commercials where they walk into like this clothing thrift store and this, like teenage gal or like maybe early 20s year old chick behind the counter is like, hey, yeah, hey, welcome in. If there's anything you want to try on, just let me know. And the reporter's like, you realize there's a pretty big war outside going on right now, right? And she's like, oh, well, whatever we watch on the news, we just figure it's for the best. So whatever. And what it kind of demonstrated was like, even if we ever got to that point where it was like foreign invasion, civil war, things like that, like not the entire country is involved in that conflict. There are going to be parts that'll be relatively safe, right?
Mhm.
Where life will go on, things will be relatively normal. This happened in the last civil war as well. There are parts of the country everything's going to be fine. You still got to get up, you still got to go to work, you still got to pay your rent,
Yep.
right?
During the
Meanwhile, the
Revolutionary
world,
War, the world still went on.
yeah, World War II, all of it. Like the world still went on. You still had to buy groceries. You still had to do your job. The world didn't just stop because there was a war on, And it's an interesting thing to think about is like to a certain extent in certain areas, yeah, things are going to get really bad and it's going to be brutal. And in other areas though, you probably won't even notice. It won't affect your daily life in major ways at least.
Yeah, everyone will
You
be
might not
talking
be able
about it.
yeah, you might not be able to get certain goods and stuff like that. But I mean, dude, I think there'd still be people like there are today that just, are completely clueless.
Yeah.
Um, it just amazes me how clueless some people can be. I mean, even I've been picking up some seasonal shifts at the gun shop where we used to work, and still I get people coming in being like, What do you mean? What laws? What are you talking about? What do you mean I can't buy this or I can't buy that?"
Mhm.
And it's like, dude, where have you been? Like this has been the law for a while. And it just never ceases to amaze me how many people just have their heads buried in the sand and are completely caught off guard when laws get passed or certain events happen. And they're like, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you always have, we had people when I worked at a gun store in California that didn't know California law.
Yeah, like that's the kind of thing. Like I get if you move maybe from out of state or something like that, but I mean it's a certain to a certain extent, dude. I just don't understand it. That and like one of the things that's kind of starting to piss me off a lot is when people use the cop. I feel it's such a cop out excuse of like, oh, well, we'll beat them in the courts. We'll fight it in court. We'll win. We'll win the court battle. And especially when it comes to gun laws. And the thing that's starting to piss me off about that is like people are fucking retarded because they don't understand how the laws work
Mhm.
and they don't understand how court battles work and they don't understand that like the California mag ban has been in effect for 30 years.
Yeah. 30
Like
years.
Judge Benitez ruled it unconstitutional in 2017. That was 6 years ago.
And California just said, yeah, we don't care. We're still going to
Yeah,
enforce this.
exactly. So, oh, speaking of that, that's the thing I wanted to talk to you about today. We've been talking for half an hour because I completely spaced about what it was I want to talk to you about. Now I remember it. So hopefully you guys hung on through this because this is important for everybody. So the federal government has finally announced how they are going to run their like the basically I can't remember the exact wording of it, but it's basically the office of it's like the office for the Center of Gun Crime Prevention or something like that. It's basically the ministry of how I'm going to take your firearms. So no joke, the federal government will now begin to fund states and state governments that seek to push through certain types of gun legislation So for all of you that live in red states, and for all of you that live in states that are starting to turn a little purple, you need to be paying attention and you need to be getting active, because not only are the anti-gun organizations that already donate money to the anti-gun candidates in your states going to be pumping money into there, your tax dollars will now go to fund your governors and all the people running for different types of different types of political office, and for all the different legislation in your state to push through anti-gun legislation. There will be government federal backed dollars going to this, tax incentives as well, and I can guarantee you there will be some kind of monetary kickback for those who get elected. So if you think that just because you're in a red state, or maybe you're in a purple state that's kind of not quite there yet, that you think you're off the hook, you're not.
Mhm.
Think of it this way: most of the Northeast, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, Connecticut, that area, as well as Oregon, Washington, California, they're already conquered. They're already anti-gun. They have some of the strictest gun control in the country. All of the tax dollars that are going there, they could cut off funding today, and it'd still take us 20 years to fight our way through the courts. And meanwhile, all of the money that we're spending fighting on those courts, we can't spend it promoting pro-gun stuff because we're trying to get our rights back. So what are they going to do? They're going to take all the money that they pumped into Washington, Oregon, and California and the Northeast, and they're going to start moving inland.
Yep.
They're going to start pumping it into Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North and South Carolina, getting those areas, Florida. So
people talk a lot of shit. They say a lot about Texas too, going like, "Oh, that'll never happen." Texas loves guns. Da, 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 da. Texas is little purple.
Texas is real fucking purple, and that's a problem, And people like this idea that like look, politics shift, right, with people, and people shift and move places. California at one point, like when Ronald Reagan was governor, was a deeply conservative red state, and now it's purple. Now it's pretty blue.
Yeah, I'll say it's bleeding blue, not pretty blue.
Yeah, it's extremely blue, right? California's starting to get pretty purple. And so that's the thing, is like, if you think your stronghold is a stronghold, that's not always been the case. Politics change with people. Certain areas that were extremely conservative have become Democrat, and Democrat become conservative, and vice versa all across the board. So keep an eye on your local politics, keep an eye on your federal politics. The idea, in my opinion, that if you want to live a Minuteman lifestyle, those Minutemen people were not apolitical. They were not out of politics. They were extremely in politics because they saw what was going on. They were extremely involved and saw that at one point they could no longer take it because they had exhausted all of their options. Then they went out and stood. But they knew what was coming because they knew the law, because they knew what the laws were. They knew what was coming and were able to stand out on that green and fight the redcoats because they were aware of what was happening around them. So don't keep your head buried in the sand. That's my soapbox moment, anyway.
My soapbox moment. Nah, it's a very respectable position, dude, because you're 100% right. If you think you can be a Minuteman and just be like, live in the woods and ignore everything and not give a shit because it's not your government, not your president, whatever it may be, it is. This is your country. You're a Minuteman because you're not fighting just for the livelihood of yourself. You're fighting for the livelihood of your future and your future kin and your children's children. And that's politics, man. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what you need to fight.
And I'm so glad you said it that way too, because that was just going through my mind, man, is that you're about to be a dad. I am a dad, and I look at it like this, man. If you have the idea that, like, doesn't matter what they pass, I'm gonna go out to the woods, I'm gonna go do my own thing, or it doesn't matter, I'm a free man. That's fantastic. That's good for you. That kills you. I mean, that's terrible for your sons and your daughters. That's terrible for your grandchildren. Years from now, when you're an old man and you look your grandchildren in the eye and you tell them, I wasn't a political person, I stayed out of it, not my problem. You can tell them why that. You can tell your grandchildren why they got to enjoy fewer freedoms than you did. You can tell your grandchild, for example, if you live in Washington State right now and you did nothing to try to prevent some of the laws that went through there, You can go tell your grandchildren why they can't have firearms. You can go tell your grandchildren why they don't get to enjoy their Second Amendment, why you were able to do so, and why you so selfishly decided that it wasn't worth fighting for their future. I don't understand, in my opinion, how anyone, as a parent especially, could not be involved in some way, um, ensuring that their children have more freedom than they do. To me, that seems like the ultimate life goal of your child. For your child, I mean, for your child, is to ensure that they grew up in a freer world than you grew up in. And if that means doing something about it, then do something about it. But if don't have this mentality like, I'm good, I've got what I need. And unfortunately, a lot of us do, or a lot of us have like, oh, well, if things get that bad, I'll just go live in the woods. Oh, good luck.
Yeah. And what kind of life? I mean, I just don't get it. I go on and on and on all night about that subject. I just don't understand why people think that they can just stay out of it and nothing will happen to them.
One thing I keep saying again and again, and I've been saying it a lot lately. There's that old saying where people are like, never underestimate the fury of a man that just wants to be left alone, right? Where like the idea is that like, you get like you think of like the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson's character, right? He just wants to be left alone. And then finally the war comes to him and it's unavoidable and he has to just, unleash his fury, and then everyone regrets messing with him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a very good idea in movies. That's a very good idea in books and in entertainment. In reality, and historically speaking, the person who wants to be left alone will always be defeated by the person that wants to win.
Yeah. And a heavy part on that is like, how about we don't get to the point where our kid is dead?
Yeah, or how about we become the people that want to win? And winning means making sure these things never happen in the first place.
That movie always makes,
You know?
I'm so sorry to get off topic, but that movie always makes me
No, you're
laugh
good.
so hard because he's just like, I want to be left alone. I want to be left alone. And then like his son is killed and he's like, all right, I'm ready to do something now.
Yeah. He's like, my least favorite child died. Now it's time to kill everyone.
Dude, like that part of the movie doesn't make sense. If he was just up in arms already before the war was on his doorstep, his kid probably would have been alive still.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things like that. You think about it, we all bitch and moan about the same things, about the government overreaching, this, that, and the other. But then everyone, we all stay out of stuff, or we're like, that's not my worries, or it doesn't matter, system's rigged.
It's my kid's
And it's like, well, yeah, or like it's always going to be rigged against you if you do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, change doesn't happen overnight. Things, but like prime example, I think of it this way. Look at Brandon Herrera, the AK guy. He's running for Congress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, granted, you can say what you want, but I think that at least based on a lot of the statements that he's made, and the way he's acted, and the political movements he's been involved in up to this point, he could legitimately get in there and make a bit of a change. Now, for that to happen, people have to vote for him. Now, granted, that's also on the local state government level, and that's one man, right? But if all of us acted like that at our local level politics, and then expanded upon that to our federal level politics as best as we can, are there certain things we will change in our lifetime? Probably not. Are there certain levels of corruption that will go away? Probably not. Are there things that we can change? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm sorry, keep on going.
No, I was just going to say, like, that's basically where I'm at. It's like there are things we can do, there are things we can change, and especially like going into the new year, we all need, I think, to get serious about more training, more preparation, more, getting ready, continuing to be prepared citizens in every aspect of it, but also like to get involved with your local city, state, federal governments, especially with this being election year. I'm probably going to hype on that a lot. I understand the idea where people have like, oh, we can't vote our way out of this. Well, you don't have to vote your way into it either.
Yeah.
That's,
not,
I mean,
not doing anything is voting for it.
Yeah. If you're not, if you, whether, if you're not voting for it, right, you're letting somebody else choose your fate. and that's not freedom. That's not being a Minuteman. That's letting somebody else make your decisions for you. That's being a slave.
American dream, dude.
Yeah.
Also,
I'm just
don't put
Go
all.
ahead.
I'm sorry to go on this tangent too, but don't put all your faith in the one man. Yeah, Brandon Herrera might be a great dude, and one day he'll be begging to come on this podcast. Mark my words. But, like everyone thought, the badass Navy SEAL with the eye patch is gonna fucking help our gun right.
That's
We
true.
have red flag laws, so put
Yeah.
your faith in the I want to say what I'm losing my words for it, like the system almost, but not the system, not people.
But I think the way that to say it is like look at it, like a lot of how many people looked at Trump and were like, our God savior Trump will come and protect us, right? And then we got red flag laws out of it.
Yeah, red,
Like we
red
didn't we
flag
didn't get
laws,
shit.
no bump stock bans, all sorts of shit.
Yeah, we didn't get pro gun shit out of that. We didn't. I mean, we got some good economical stuff, but there's a lot of stuff we got wrong there too. But then now, even now, people will sniff that man's farts and be like, he is our god. I like that kind of stuff. Like just blows my mind. I'm like, he's one man, and on top of that, you're more worried about the one man who can't really do a whole lot like politically within our system of government, and you don't give a single shit about the 550 some odd people in Congress who control every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, most people listening, and I don't know, I'm not trying to yell at you guys. I love you guys, but I guarantee you, most people can't tell you who their state congressman is. Most people can't tell you who the representative is for the district that they live in. Most people can't tell you what district they live in
I'll do one.
without Googling it.
Most people don't know who the vice president is. I'm being serious about that.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a good point too, and that's the thing is like we talk about these ideals a lot of what America is and what America should be, and ideas of citizenship and how we should act and what we should be. But how many people, especially in our age group, know the difference between a republic and a democracy? How many people know what our Constitution actually says? How many people know the words of our founding fathers? We all sit here and say that we're ready to die for these beliefs, but do we actually know what we believe?
Yeah, most people have no idea what they're talking about. No idea.
And that's one thing I'm going to put out a challenge to everybody listening, especially if you're an American. And if you're not an American, because I know we do have some international audience, I would challenge you to do this anyway, just and see where your values line up with this. But read the Constitution. You can pick up a copy of it, some places for free, but you can generally get a copy for less than $10. It fits in your pocket, right? You can read the entirety of the Declaration of Independence and the entirety of the Constitution of the United States in less time than most of you would probably spend reading your Bible.
Which a lot of our viewers are veterans too, that signed their lives away to die for this document. They've never even read it.
That's one thing I always had a hard time with too in the military was all these people who didn't know how our government worked or care or wanted to have any part of it. And I'm like, we are literally directly a result of politics, and you're not involved with politics at all. Our job is politics. You have no idea what our nation believes, yet you signed to willingly die for it and defend it. Because the United States, we're unique in the sense that when you pledge your oath, you pledge your oath to an ideals in a document, not to a king, not to a president, not to a governing body, but to a group of ideas.
And a lot of people
That's
will say
unique.
you pledge it to the American people as well. Not really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you pledge it. You are willing to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
At no point in that, a lot of civilian friends I have also are like, yeah, the military would never do that. At no point in that where you said, I will die for the Constitution, did you say, oh, but I would also die for my uncle and my aunt and my brother and all this. Obviously, it's implied when you like serve your community like that, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not like when you join the military, they don't go, oh, by the way, if we decide to turn on our people, you obviously get a free pass. You don't have to kill your family.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing for me that again, kind of going back to reasons I got out. I think that was another big part too, was kind of seeing the way that the military handled COVID, put a really bad taste in my mouth. seeing the way that some of the ways that things were coming down the chain, and the kinds of people who were still in the military, the kinds of people they were leaving, and the kinds of people that were joining. Um, I honestly don't think that that's far off. A lot of people have this idea that like, oh, if civil war breaks out, the military will be on our side because conservative this or Democrat that. And the problem with that kind of way of thinking is, for those of us who've been in the military, we'll tell you there's a lot of people that are there to pick up a paycheck and they don't give a fuck who's telling them what to do.
Yep.
They don't care what it is, how it is. Look, there, and it's not like they're going to be like, oh, hey, these 8 people in that house, we have to go clear our Republicans or Democrats. We have to go kill them. It's going to be things like, hey, we have 8 high value targets in this building. They're responsible for a terror attack or some kind of whatever mumbo jumbo. You don't have time to figure that out. You don't have time to know. All you know is there's 8 bad guys going into that room. You are going in with the dudes you've spent the last 3 years with, getting to know closer than your own family. And you're going to make sure that if bullets come your way, you're sending bullets back. So at that point, you don't care.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing a lot of people forget is it's not. I mean, there are some of us who would be like, nope, I'm ideologically opposed. I'm ideologically opposed to this. I'm out. There's a lot of people who will just do it.
Yeah, a lot of people forget too that there's like this military supremacy kind of thing that they think they're better than civilians anyway.
Yeah, that exists. That's real.
Yeah.
It's disturbing, but it's real. And like I've done my so much to try to combat that. Hell, that's why we started this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Regular guy.
Exactly, to show that like, look, we're just 2 average dudes. 2 average guys. Do we have military experience? Sure. But I think me and Mike will both tell you that like we don't credit our military experience to any of our success in this kind of areas, and that we both will tell you that like we've had plenty of good training outside of it. And I'll admit all day long that like the military is not the end all be all. It is the lowest common denominator as a whole.
Yeah.
And you will get much better training outside of it. I have much better experiences outside of it. Don't think that just because you didn't join the military or that you can't be something, and don't think that just because you are in the military that makes you better than anybody else.
And
so
they're 19-year-olds or 18-year-olds jacked up on energy drinks, dude. Plus, I was so filled with testosterone at that age, dude, that I didn't care who they told me I get to kill. That I just wanted to kill somebody. Like,
yeah, see that, and that exactly right, like exactly. There's parts of that where it's like, it didn't matter. It was like, look, you tell me there's bad guys in that room and I'm going in with my bros. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's do something.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
during the during the Black Lives Matter riots and stuff like that, I was doing security downtown San Diego with the military, and I was hyped. I wanted people to like come up and try to assault the building we were protecting because I wanted to get into confrontations, dude. So it's like, at the end of the day, like now that I'm a little bit older and I think about these things and stuff like that, obviously those are all American citizens. Those are all brothers and sisters of your own country that you're supposed to love. And we were praying they came and attacked our building because they're the enemy and they're the bad people in that situation. But it's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird when you think about it afterwards because you're like, damn, dude, I really wanted to kill American citizens.
Yeah, and I think I think the biggest thing for me with this is that like we can talk honestly about this and tell people that, and I think a lot of people won't talk like that, and a lot of people won't. I'm not trying to suck our own dicks here, but it's a truthful thing that like, look, everyone has this idea that like just because you join the military that makes you like somehow more honorable and chivalrous than some other people, and I think at a certain point that may have been true. But I think, unfortunately, with like the idea of a modern America and some of the positions that we've been put into and the way that things are treated, like this idea of military elitism that we've talked about again, like, so, dude, I remember we all had it. That those of us that were in, dude, when I was 19, and dude, full of piss and vinegar. You dirty civilians, you guys don't know shit. You can't possibly know more than me. I've been trained on this weapon, right? Little did I know that like there are weight dudes out there that'll smoke my ass every day that have never even seen a uniform.
Lucas Bakken,
You know,
he trains SEALs.
Whew, hell yeah, hell yeah. You know, and like and this mentality and that exists not just within the military but outside of it as well among the civilian populace. That again, how many like if you had to go pick an instructor and like this is just a litmus test, right? If you have to go pick an instructor, how many people do you think are going to pick up somebody like if you didn't know who Lucas Bakken was and you just looked at like his pedigree of training and then you immediately saw someone less qualified but said former special operator, hands down 10-1 people are signing up with a special operator because it'll say Navy SEAL or Green Beret or Army Ranger, like keywords, or like MARSOC, like how many times I've been at the gun shop that someone's like, oh, well, MARSOC sets their rifle up this way. And so I set up mine like that. But like, that's cool, dude. Are you doing anything close to what MARSOC does? Do you even know what MARSOC does? Like as opposed to other branches like special operations, like, oh, the ranger, my buddy's a ranger and he set his rifle up like this. Are you planning on doing any mission set remotely close to the Rangers or the Navy SEALs or anything else like that? Like if you're setting it up to be cool because that's what you like, because if it's good advice, whatever, but if you think you're setting up your rifle because you're going to be a ranger and doing ranger shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, are you planning on doing that? Like, are you planning on like swimming up river, and climbing out, like doing some Navy SEAL stuff where like you walk along and that like there were footprints on the beach and now there's not? Yeah. Be like, no, dude, you're an overweight 40-year-old guy. You just want it because it looks cool, but because it had some special operator on YouTube told you that this is how you set it up, that's how you're setting it up instead of doing it specifically to your thing. And that's why I think like a lot of people go out and set up their gear based on their favorite special operator, right? And to me, I'm just so sick and tired of it because I'm like, dude, that is the worst possible way to do it, in my opinion, because you're one assuming that you're going to be using, I think they're coming at it with years of experience from certain assets and things that you will never have access to, right? On top of that, your mission set for what you will probably most likely do is probably entirely different, like worlds apart from what they might do.
Yeah.
And what they did. So you setting up your gear as some like Navy SEAL who did CQB somewhere in the Middle East, and that's how you're going to model your gear after, when you're not never going to do something like that. And if shit hits the fan, your plan does not involve like CQB at all, but maybe more like going to the mountains and doing some stuff there. Maybe you should just like, I don't know, take your gear, set it up, go in the woods, do stuff, and move it around as necessary and fit it to you and your mission set, and stop taking YouTube's advice because a special operator told you it's perfect.
Yeah, I was actually watching a podcast, and it was a Navy SEAL, and he was talking about when he was brand new to the teams, and he was full of piss and vinegar, and they were talking about going out into the training and like doing shooting drills and stuff, and he was getting pissed off because all of his instructors were civilians. And he was like, why am I not, learning from other Navy SEALs? And the Navy SEAL that was in for a while looked at the other guy and said, yeah, we know how to kill people. These guys know how to fucking shoot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one thing that just gets me a lot of times. And that, again, goes back to why we started this podcast. It is to show everybody, look, you don't need a special operator or a super Green Beret, whatever you want to, anything like that.
Look at the greatest shooters of all time. Most of them not military.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good shooters out there. I mean, Jerry Michlik is super quick on the trigger for sure.
Yeah.
But like those, just from the shooting sports side, absolutely. But even on like so what was that?
The best shooters in the world, Olympic shooters, anything like that. The best shooters in the entire world that we have collected are all civilians.
Even on the more Minuteman side, we've said this time and time again, we do not have military assets behind us. Realistically, you have you and whatever you can scrounge. Mm-hmm. And don't be unrealistic about this. Like, oh, I'm going to go raid the Walmart, steal everything they got. No, you're not, because everybody else is doing the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Like what you have is what you have, you know. So if you think you're going to be this micro rig dude that's going to like go in, cap Osama bin Laden, bang his goat, and dip out, probably not. It's probably not you.
You're
So
not that guy.
yeah, be realistic. Be realistic. Anyway, I feel like it's funny. I said this was going to be a shorter one, and now we're at an hour.
Oh damn.
Well, anyway, that being said, um, don't forget, guys, we do still have our merch store. We're gonna be doing a Christmas sale on there, so 10% off. Mid tier 10 is the code for that, and I will have that in the description. Other than that, guys, as I said, kind of moving in towards Christmas and New Year's. We probably won't have an episode until New Year, just to kind of give us some time to spend with family and readjust to life, things like that. Realistically, me and Mike might sit down and record one, but probably won't publish it until afterwards, just to be real. So I would say this is probably the last one for the year. That being said, looking back at our Spotify Wrapped, you guys are awesome. You have definitely supported us and done a huge amount with that. I really appreciate you guys. I think we're in the top podcast for like 50 some odd people. We're in the top 5 for 270 some odd, and 350 of y'all have us in your top 10. So the fact that we're that high up on the list tells me either one, you guys don't listen to podcasts that much, or two, you really like us. So that being said, though, like we've talked about, it's always super humbling, and I really enjoy being able to meet up here and talk to Mike and our other guests, and one, have you guys listen to it and all the feedback you guys give us on social media, and we're gonna start getting more clips rolling on there too. Now that I finally figured out how to post our clips from our show, so you guys can spread the word.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, thanks everybody. This has been another episode of Mid Tier Thoughts, and maybe next time we'll actually get back to talking about guns.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have some of these episodes. I was just thinking about it. Like we've
Yeah,
all over the place lately.
yeah, a little bit. I think after Christmas we'll have to talk about any goodies we might have got.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't gotten too many requests, so obviously,
Yeah,
like what we talk about.
yeah. I think that's the thing, is we're just we're just real about it, and so we just go where the heart leads.
Yeah. Also, a lot of these episodes, guys, have been like super
Are you
awesome.
there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh
Hello.
yeah, sorry, you're good.
Yeah. So a
Yep,
lot of
I got you.
episodes, we were kind of going like seat of our pants because we were literally like just trying to find time where we could record. Just because life has been crazy lately, guys.
Yeah, life's been crazy, but I
But
think me and Mike, I speak for me and Mike both on this, that we feel like we still want to give back to you guys, and we still want to give you guys something to listen to. You guys have been awesome at supporting us, so we don't want to leave you hanging. So with some of these that feel kind of rushed, just because we do kind of literally sit down last minute and be like, dude, we got to find an hour and let's talk.
yeah, well, honestly, guys, it's all Austin has been absolutely amazing. Most of the time of the postpones has been me. Just the baby and everything has been so crazy on my family.
Dude, if you keep talking like that, I'm gonna have to come over there and put a baby in you.
Don't you tempt me, bro.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks everybody for listening. It's been great. Welcome to another episode of Mid Tier Thoughts. Have a good one. See you on the next time.
Later, y'all.